Hello, this video is based on Chapter 7 from Ecology 5th edition by Bauman and Hacker. In this video, we discuss life history variation within and among species, and trade-offs between life history traits. Here we see a baby rhinoceros following its mother, which will guard her offspring with her life. The baby rhinoceros is relatively huge, having been born at about 65 kilograms, or 140 pounds. A baby rhino will be able to walk several days after birth and becomes fully independent after only 1 year of parental care. And here we have a human child following her father who will guard his offspring with his life. Trust me. The child is born relatively small and will go through a long, very long, very long period of dependence. Some of you watching this video may consider yourself adults, but still depend on your parents. Here we have 3 masses of eggs laid by a female newt. The female carefully selected the place where she laid her eggs, but she will probably not guard them. She just hopes they will hatch and be fine. And here we have a sponge, just spewing out gametes into the open water. Whatever happens, happens. Que será, será. Whatever will be, will be. The sponge couldn't care less for its offspring. Why such tremendous diversity in organisms, patterns of growth, development, reproduction, and parental care? This is the focus of life history analysis. What is life history? Life history encompasses the major events relating to an organism's growth, development, reproduction, and survival, including the age of sexual maturity and overall longevity. A life history strategy is the overall pattern in the timing and the nature of life history events averaged across all the individuals of a species. Take, for example, this illustration of the life cycle or life history strategy of a frog. The life history strategy is shaped by the way the organism divides its energy and resources between growth, reproduction, and survival. Within a species, individuals often differ in how they divide their energy and resources among these activities. Such variation may result from genetic differences, environmental differences, or a combination of both. Life histories are adaptations to maximize fitness, which is the genetic contribution of an organism's descendants to future generations. In that sense, life history traits, as with any other traits that represent adaptations, must have heritable variation on which natural selection can act. On the other hand, many life history traits vary depending on the environment. For example, most plants and animals grow at different rates depending on temperature, because development typically accelerates as temperature rises. That is, only up to a certain point when temperature approaches the organism's thermal tolerance. We use the term phenotypic plasticity to refer to the ability of a single genotype to produce different phenotypes under different environmental conditions. I invite you to check out this really cool video highlighting phenotypic plasticity of barnacle penises. You may access this video by clicking on the link at the upper right-hand corner. If barnacle penises aren't your thing, let me go through two examples from the textbook. In this first example, we see that ponderosa pines that grow in cool, moist climates, the blue dots, allocate more biomass to leaf growth compared to the trees in warmer desert climates, the red dots. The graph to the right shows that desert trees are shorter and have a wider trunk diameter. Why, does, why do you suppose desert trees have fewer leaves and wider trunk diameters? The example of the ponderosa pine trees shows a type of phenotypic plasticity that responds to temperature and produces a continuous range of phenotypic variation. But here is another type of phenotypic plasticity, in which a single genotype produces discrete phenotypes, or morphs, with no intermediate forms. In this example, spadefoot toad tadpoles in Arizona ponds exist in two morphs: an omnivorous morph, which feeds on detritus and algae, and the larger carnivorous morph, which feeds on shrimp and other tadpoles. What determines whether a tadpole is omnivorous or carnivorous? The food supply and what they consume early in development. If you think such divergent diets within a species are bizarre, consider how different the diets of humans are. Some of you may be vegan, while others of you, especially if you are from Texas, probably eat beef for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I'm kidding, of course, but the point here is that there can be remarkable life history variation even within a species, and it can be exciting for an ecologist to explore whether that variation is governed by genetics or the environment. Let's return to the original example of the rhino, the human, the newt, and the sponge. Why do some species invest lots of parental care into a few offspring? And why do other species attempt to have millions of offspring but provide no parental care? Remember the concept of trade-offs? Organisms have limited amounts of energy and resources that can be invested in growth, reproduction, and defense. Trade-offs occur when organisms allocate their limited energy and resources to one structure or function at the expense of another. Here we see a trade-off between offspring number and offspring survival in black-backed seagulls. You could see that in clutches with fewer eggs, all or most of the young survived to fledge. But in clutches with more eggs, the chances of survival were lower. Similar trade-offs also occur in plants. Have you ever wondered why an avocado fruit produces one large seed, but a tomato fruit produces dozens or perhaps hundreds of tiny seeds? No? Really? Okay, fine. Think about it now. The size of a seed is a measure of parental investment. In plants, the size of the seeds that a species produces is negatively correlated with the number of seeds it produces, as seen in this graph. This is an example of a trade-off seen across species. But in some cases, we see the offspring size, offspring number trade-off within a species. The western fence lizard is common in the western United States. Most of you have probably seen this species in Pepperdine's Malibu campus. Here is a picture of one that I found in Hero's Garden. In the three graphs to the left, you see that the number of eggs laid by female lizards increases with latitude. Lizards in Washington tend to have larger clutches. Lizards in California tend to have smaller clutches. And lizards in Oregon tend to have clutches of intermediate size. However, the mean size of the eggs shows the opposite relationship with latitude. Why do you suppose the eggs of western fence lizards in California are larger in size but fewer in number? So far, all these examples of trade-offs that I have discussed involve life history traits related to reproduction. Can you think of an example of a trade-off between a life history trait related to reproduction and another life history trait not related to reproduction? Think about it and we'll discuss it together in class.